My sister Bethany is 12 years older than me. She went to college when I was 6 and stayed in the same city after graduation. So naturally, we've never been close. After college, Bethany met a guy named Adam. Adam was constantly in trouble with the law and could never hold down a job. Against everyone's advice, Bethany stayed with Adam. Eventually, she married him because she said she had a thing for bad boys, and Adam made her feel edgy and exciting. Bethany and Adam have 4 children: my young niece, Amelia, toddler twin nephews, Jack and Nico, and youngest niece, Ray, younger toddler. Well, almost immediately after Ray was born, Adam was charged with a serious crime, and he will be, at minimum, spending the next 6 years in prison. My parents are in their 60s. They said it was easy to help when Ray and the twins were babies, but now that they're toddlers and can outrun them, forget it. Therefore, they're asking me to begin taking care of my nieces and nephews since I work from home. They said no one would be anywhere without family, and because I'm young, I need to give back and help my family now. I told my parents and Bethany that their plan wasn't even feasible. Working from home still means working. I have to speak with clients and be active in meetings. I can't constantly step away to keep an eye on the kids, especially not one as young as Ray. Plus, I'm 25. I still have college debt to pay back. Babysitting as a teenager does not mean I'm ready to become a parent to even one child, much less 4 children. I also reminded Bethany that she's never really been involved in my life other than attending the same occasional holiday parties. We may share DNA, but we're practically strangers. I acknowledge the situation with Adam is unfortunate, but he showed for years that he wouldn't be a stable partner. She was 30 when they had Amelia. She wasn't a naive teenager. She chose the excitement of being with a person like Adam, and she chose to deal with the consequences now. Her choices are not my responsibility. My parents told me that if I didn't step up, they were going to leave everything to Bethany and the kids when they passed, and that I would not receive any major financial help from them again. I told them to do whatever they wanted and repeated the same thing I did to Bethany about not being responsible for her life choices. I explained this situation to some friends. They agreed I wasn't an idiot for refusing to help with my nieces and nephews because it wasn't a feasible option anyway. But a few of my friends said I was an idiot for how I explained myself to Bethany and my parents, because no one gets married expecting to be a single parent. And what I said about Adam came off as victim blaming Bethany for her situation. 2 of these friends said that I could at least agree to look after them during my time off, since they're still my nieces and nephews. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Victim blaming? What exactly is Bethany the victim of? The victim of her own bad decisions? Get out of here. Your parents are also idiots for holding money or inheritance over your head. Your family sounds awful, quite frankly. If they're so concerned, they can pay for a babysitter or something. Also, you should give the number of the friends who said that you're victim blaming to your sis and tell them to expect to be called for babysitting help. Jesus, I wish my work from home job had been sitting around the house, being lazy for a paycheck. I worked harder for that job than I have for any in-office job. There'd be no way I could take care of my niece and nephew. If your parents want to disown you, so be it. Instead, tell them to use their inheritance to pay for childcare if they feel someone needs to step up. If there even is any inheritance, parents are 60. They could be around another 25 to 30 years. After that, the kids will be grown. I don't freaking understand why parents want their youngest child to sacrifice her life to raise her idiot sister's kids. Hopefully, OP just deletes their number at that point and continues to live her best life. This is why I would call the parents and Bethany's bluff and cut them off completely. They admit they have a favorite here by saying you will never receive any major financial help from them again. By saying that, They'll leave money to one child, but the other one has to provide labor to the other to earn an inheritance. Wow, darling, your parents suck. Once again, the kid who does well gets punished for it. My wife and I have lived in the same house for almost 6 years. We live in an older neighborhood with many mature trees. So every fall, there are a lot of leaves on the ground. We have a pretty big lot and a lot of trees, so it takes a lot of time and effort to clear all the leaves off of our yard. The first 4 years we lived here, we spent time every weekend for a month raking and clearing leaves because we have trees that drop their leaves at different times. It's not hard work, but it's time consuming. And last year I decided that we don't need to do that anymore. I researched the benefits of not raking and found that it creates animal habitat, provides nutrients to your lawn, and gasp, leaves are naturally and incredibly biodegradable. So we took the time we had previously spent raking leaves and took our family to apple orchards and pumpkin patches on the weekends instead. It was liberating. But neighbors on both sides of our house complained that leaves from our yard were blowing into their yards and creating more work for them. They both told me we should rake them up so they don't blow into their yards. I told them both that we aren't raking anymore, and they both think we're being jerks and disrespectful to them. We don't live in an HOA, and there's no city ordinance about forcing homeowners to rake leaves. It's purely an aesthetic thing. This past weekend, I was outside with my kids, and my 2 neighbors approached me, asking if we're planning on raking this year. I told them that no, we were not going to rake. I explained that we saved dozens of hours of time by not doing it, and that the leaves were all degraded and gone by the end of the winter anyway. So we're taking the natural approach again. They both got upset and complained that we were creating more work for them by not properly caring for our yard. We don't have fences separating our yards, so the leaves do move pretty freely between our properties. I told them that no one was forcing them to rake their leaves either, and they were free to let them biodegrade, just like we did. One of them got really angry with me and told me how much of a jerk I was about this. The other calmed him down a bit and offered that maybe they could help pitch in and hire a service to clear our yard, so that it doesn't create any extra work for them or us. I told them I was not putting in any time, energy, or money towards clearing leaves from my property, and told them both to mind their own business and to leave us alone. No pun intended. They both think we're bad neighbors and disrespectful to the rest of them. But it was so freeing to wake up during fall weekends last year and look out at my leaf-covered lawn and realize that I don't have to do crap about it. Not the idiot. Litter's one thing, but these are leaves. No one will be hurt by you letting them decompose rather than raking them up. Your neighbor's feelings about that don't matter. They're free to put up a fence if they truly can't stand letting nature take its course. You're not obligated to do what they think you need to do. Congrats on finding more time for yourselves. You're doing nothing wrong. You are the idiot. Do you care about having a good relationship with your neighbors? You may be technically correct, but this does create more work for them if the leaves aren't contained in your yard. I'm also a fellow non-raker, by the way, but I mow them down so they actually break down and aren't blowing into other people's yards. Is this a hill worth dying on? I wouldn't ask my neighbors for favors or expect any help from them in the future if you think it is. Disagree. They can put up a fence or a barrier like people do for snow if they want to minimize leaves blowing in. The neighbors can also adjust their schedules to minimize the hours spent on gathering them. If leaves make them this unreasonably angry, they aren't decent neighbors to begin with. If finding extra leaves in my yard was my only concern with my neighbors, I would kiss the ground. My sister-in-law would trade her neighbors in for that in a heartbeat. I, 33 female, paid a visit to my in-laws with my wife, 30, and our kids, tween male and female. My in-laws live in the suburbs, and based on what I gathered from this trip and what I knew before, they have a close relationship with their neighbors. Understandably, after a while, Kids got a little bored. We have different activities available at home, but there was little for them to do here. I'm the more goofy mom, so they came to me asking for something to do. I thought we could get water guns and have a little battle in the backyard while there. After checking with my wife and mother-in-law, I got the water guns and started playing. You can see into the backyard from outside. A kind of middle-aged woman, I later found out was a neighbor and a friend of mother-in-law, told me I was setting a horrible example by teaching my kids it's okay to waste water with the crisis that the world is going through. She said I should be ashamed of myself, and parents like me are the reason that people end up wasting resources, etc. Before I could say anything, my daughter said that there was grass and plants all over the backyard, and we were actually watering them in the process. The lady was angry and said she wanted an apology for back-talking for my daughter. I was like, I'm sorry, but she has a point. She said something along the lines of, unbelievably rude, like mother, like daughter, and left. Was I an idiot here? Not the idiot. Good grief. The amount of water and water guns isn't going to matter in a drought. Your kid made a good counterpoint, and the neighbor couldn't accept that she'd been corrected by a child. Beautiful. Your daughter is one smart cookie. I'm willing to bet actual money that everyone living there wastes way more water every day than OP and her kids did. Everyone in that neighborhood washes their cars on their driveways and not their lawns because their precious green grass would get tire marks if they did that. No offense to people who do, just pointing out that there are more wasteful ways to waste water than water guns. That neighbor sounds like she has issues with things she can't control. You were polite enough, and no apology for back talk was necessary. Kudos for raising someone who will not be bullied. As you mentioned, someone interjected themselves into the use of the family's property, complained without a reasonable basis, and was put in their place by someone younger but clearly smarter. My sister was a single parent of 2 when she met her husband, a widowed father of 1. Her kids were a preschooler and a toddler when they met, and her husband's son was a preteen. They married after 8 months of being together. Her stepson did not accept my sister or her kids well. My sister told our parents and me her family was going through some growing pains and that her stepson might have an attitude for a while, but to please make him feel welcomed and loved. A couple of years after their marriage, my sister and her husband became foster parents. My sister's husband adopted older kids. Her stepson didn't want to be adopted and was angry about bringing more kids into the house. Things were messy. Her stepson was acting out a lot and finding many excuses not to be home. She'd say things like, he just needs time, or, oh, you know how boys can be. Finally, she and her husband put him in therapy when it got so bad that he was always staying in his room and locking the door. Honestly, my parents and I were concerned about their suitability to have vulnerable foster kids added into the mix, and we spoke to the caseworker. However, they were still considered better than nobody. They ended up adopting from foster care 3 times, 2 bio-siblings, a little girl with special needs, and a boy who was only a baby. They continued fostering alongside the adoptions. My sister's stepson is now a mid-teen. My sister and her husband have tried to give him more responsibilities within the family and get him to spend time with all the additional siblings for a chance to bond. A few weeks ago, he was asked to stay home with the kids for 40 minutes while his dad went to work, that my sister would be home then. Instead, he left once his dad was out of sight, and my sister got home to the other kids home alone. My sister was so upset and called her husband. He ended up taking the day off of work, and he found his son and dragged him home. They argued, and my sister tried talking to him, hoping he would say why. Instead, he ignores her or says he doesn't have to tell her anything, that she's not his mother, parent, or a family. It's been weeks of this. My sister is still upset. CPS was made aware of what happened by one of the foster kids, and nothing was done. They said it could happen in any family. My sister has been very upset about her stepson's unwillingness to discuss things with her. She told me she had tried multiple times to get him to open up to her, and he just won't, and how it's stressing her the heck out. I let her talk a few times and I offered her comfort, but now it's become a fixation, and I can't help but notice it's distracting her from the other kids. So the last time she brought it up, I told her she needed to give in and accept her stepson wasn't going to talk to her, and that she needed to leave that to her husband. She told me he's one of her kids, and she can't just leave it or accept it. Am I the idiot? That kid will be out of there at 18, and she'll still hope he will, one day, want to be a part of the blended and adopted family. You are not the idiot. This is just a whole mess of a situation. That poor kid. His dad and your sister keep making all these decisions, never considering the impact on him. 8 months? There was absolutely no reason they had to move that fast. They want one big happy family. They want the son to open up to her. They want the son to love their siblings. They wanted a house full of kids. They just assume every decision they make is best for everyone when it's only best for them. Now he just feels abandoned and powerless. First he lost his mom, and now his dad emotionally abandoned him in exchange for a long list of new kids. That kid shut down his emotions ages ago. Forcing him into family time only worsens it. Your sister needs to leave that poor kid alone. I have a teen daughter. I'm dating Laurel, who has 3 kids, female teen, male tween. When we first started dating, she didn't tell me she had 3 kids. That would have been a deal breaker for me. By the time I found out about her kids, I already had feelings for her. However, I had explained to her that I never had any intention of having more kids, and that I won't let our relationship affect my daughter's life. And by that I mean, even if we get married, she will be responsible for her own kids, and I'll be responsible for mine, because I can't afford to treat 3 more kids the same as my daughter. And she agreed. Now that we've moved in together, because of her financial issues, we had to, otherwise, she'd become homeless. Our problem started. I gave the guest room to her kids, but she thinks I should let her daughter share with my daughter. I said, absolutely not. My daughter hates sharing, and I won't force her. She thinks I'm an idiot, and that I should at least give the smallest room to my daughter and let the others share her room, which, again, I don't want to do. Am I the idiot for not changing the way things are? Edit. I can't just let my girlfriend of 8 years be homeless. I love her. It's not that simple. Now that we moved in together, because of her financial issues, we had to. Otherwise, she'd become homeless. Our problem started. Your problem started when you agreed to be in a serious relationship with a mom, but thought an agreement where you refused to treat your kids equitably was a good idea. Everyone's the idiot here, and this relationship isn't good for anyone involved. Holy crap, he just made an edit saying this is his girlfriend of 8 years. Whoa, 8 years? And he's made no effort at all to form a positive relationship with his girlfriend's children? And he can't bring himself to treat them with basic human respect. Her youngest child is now a tween. This means that child was just 3 when they started dating. How on earth did this situation stay so bad for so long? Jesus, that makes him so much worse. 8 years? For goodness sake. OP, you made it sound like this has all been landed on you in a short space of time, and it's a rush job, but you're talking about being distant with kids you've apparently known for half their lives. I take everything back I said. You're a huge idiot. 8 years means you're a mixed family, any way you look at it. The kids should be equal, and treating them as if they're not is going to screw them all up for life. Put your kids first. That's your one job. And you have 4 kids, by the way. You are the idiot. The idea that you can be in a relationship with someone with 3 kids for 8 years, but not have it affect you or your daughter's life is ridiculous. If you want to be with your girlfriend, That means dealing reasonably with her children. It's not optional. How would you feel if she cooked dinner for you and her kids, but refused to feed your daughter? Or did laundry for everyone but your daughter? Pick your priorities, and either you accept her and her kids as they are and treat them reasonably, or else you need to sort things out to end this relationship.